our public meeting of the Mission Cultural Center for Latino Arts. We do this twice a year where we invite the public in a very visible way to visit the board while it meets. In this instance, we have guests from the San Francisco Art Commission and the Department of Public Works. If you could introduce yourself.
Hello everybody, my name is Lisa Zayas Chen. I'm the Capital Program Manager at the San Francisco Arts Commission.
Good evening everyone, Jumoke Akintego, and I'm the Project Manager from San Francisco Public Works, and I'm overseeing the project.
I'm Denise Payne, and I'm the Director of Community Investments at the Arts Commission, so I support all the grant making and the cultural centers.
And the reason they're here today is that they're going to give us a presentation on the seismic upgrade, mechanical upgrades, ADA compliance, and building maintenance and repairs. So that explains their presence. And I know there's a lot of questions regarding that process, and they're here to address those as well. I'm Francisco Gomez, and I'm the chair of the Mission Cultural Center Board. This is Robert Retana.
I'm Robert Retana, member of the board.
I'm Irene Gomez, a member of the board.
I'm Jacqueline Rodriguez, a member of the board.
And I'm Martina Ayala, the executive director.
And now I wanted to task Jacqueline with reading the land acknowledgement. Oh, Irene, they switched it up on me.
You just rhyme. The Mission Cultural Center for Latino Arts acknowledges that we are on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the indigenous stewards of this land and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place, as well as for all people who reside in their traditional territory. As guests, we recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland. We wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community and by affirming their sovereign rights as First Peoples.
So we're going to ask for the presentation. We'll view that. After the presentation, the board has some questions. And then after we pose our questions, we're going to open it up to public comment or questions. There'll be staff members with microphones on either side. So when that time comes, see where the mic is and go in that direction to the mic closest to you, and they'll cue you up for your question. Lisa?
Hi everybody. I'm very happy to be here today, and I'm very excited about the project. This project represents the largest single investment that the San Francisco Arts Commission has ever made. We're looking at a $24 million seismic renovation project, and it's a long time coming. As many of you likely know, if you've been here for a while, we have a great facility here, but it has needed a lot of work. I'm coming up on my role at the Arts Commission in May, will be 2 years, and I've learned a lot from Martina, from the board, from the history books, and part of this project is the seismic work, but it's also the various building systems, and it's deferred maintenance as well. So I'm very proud that the Arts Commission has secured the funding for this and is finally moving it forward. Some of the really tough aspects, though, of a project like this in a facility like this that is as used as it is by Mission Cultural Center and all of you, is that it does require relocation. And after we go through the scope of work, describing what we're going to be doing, we will have time to talk about some of these more meaty, weighty, and tough issues. And we don't have all the answers yet, but I know we'll have a good dialogue about it today. So with that, I'm going to actually hand it over to my colleague Jumoke to bring us through the concept, the goals, and the physical things that we'll be doing and improving in the building.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening again, everyone. Jumoke, Akin Taylor with Public Works. So we're responsible for the design coordination and the construction of the construction or improvement for MCCLA. So I just want to give a little background. It seems like it's been a long time coming. We started this effort a couple of years ago, and when we got the facilities conditions assessment, it was just a general overview of looking at the building, what areas of improvement were needed, but we took the effort. I believe Jenny was the director at that time, worked with Jenny to understand what the needs were. And we also understood that there was limited funding, but we didn't want to do piecemeal work. We wanted to take a holistic approach to understand the entire needs of the facility, and also where we could leverage the opportunity or seize opportunities for program improvement. So that was systematic. We had to do materials testing in the building, knowing that this is it's an older building, and there's a structural evaluation of the systems, and then we had a laundry list of areas that needed improvement, some leftover work, whether it was from accessibility and ADA compliance. So there were all these different components that we had to look at. So we developed a global scope. And what I mean by global scope is everything that we could do. But of course, as Lisa had stated, it's $24 million that we had. And $24 million wasn't going to cover the entire scope of work. So, so these are the project goals. We call it voluntary seismic upgrade or structural strengthening. What can we do to improve the seismic performance of this building in the event of an earthquake? So we're calling that structural strengthening. We can't do everything that is needed, but it will strengthen the building. And the second is the mechanical upgrades. This is from conversations we've had, series of meetings we've had with Martina and the team in what works and what doesn't work. So we were able to document the areas that need improvement. Accessibility and ADA compliance, that's the law. There are certain things that we must do for ADA compliance. And then building maintenance and repairs, that has been going on. And we can talk about that when I go into the delivery. So for example, in the lobby area, what can we do once we're doing that seismic strengthening? It doesn't mean we just build the shear walls and move on, but is there an opportunity to also address some of the building repairs or the program to improve the programming space? So we also have a catalog of that. So this is the one of the scope, seismic strengthening, and this is the roof. We are going to do some work on the roof for seismic strengthening, and while we're there, there is also opportunity for the HVAC system. Next slide, please. Okay, so this describes what we are going to be doing on the roof without really getting technical. The structural strengthening and new plywood diaphragm on the roof. And again, as I mentioned, we'll have new HVAC system on the rooftop while we are doing the seismic strengthening. Next slide. And if anyone has any questions while I'm going through it, if you don't want us to go back, you can just raise your hand and we can deal with it. So we talked about the mechanical system, HVAC. So So we identified these areas where we would be, I know Martina was very particular about this because of some of the, they've had issues with that area, and then also the important documents or app that is being stored in that area, so that was identified. And then this is level 2 and 3. As we're going through the building, we are going to be looking at areas where we can improve on that is within the scope of work that we're working on. So here again was part of the HVAC system on the second floor, heating and cooling for studio spaces, and then ventilation for areas for gas and fumes. Then new ceiling and wall repairs. In these areas, we identified some of the work that we'll be doing in those areas. As you can see, it's not the entire floor. It's kind of isolated in different areas. And then the restrooms. So this was leftover work from some work that Public Works had done in this space, and the accessibility coordinator came and we did identify some corrective work that we have to do, which includes the water fountain, and then also remove the floor tile just because of a sloping issue. And then the theater here is the existing ramp. Is part of the ADA work that we're going to be doing here, is to remove the existing ramp and install slip walkway for stage level access, and continued ramp for access to the back. So this is part of the ADA and accessibility work that we're going to be doing in the building. And so this is where the seismic strengthening really is, the shear walls in the front. And we have a couple of members from the design team. I know they're here as the community, but they did a lot of work trying to figure out how can we, what work do we need to put into this building, because the space is really tight, and that will maximize the strengthening, the structural strengthening of this building. And so that's why we picked this shear walls and then the roof diaphragm, almost like the top and the front of it, to almost brace the building in the event of an earthquake. So while we are doing these shear walls, it's not just enough for us to do the shear walls, we would also improve the programming in the lobby. So some work will be done to improve the lobby space, including a new storefront and, and the existing doors, and replace the ceiling and new lights, and also the ticket booth, which was one of the things that we had discussed with Martina. So this just kind of talks about, so we have this desired improvement as part of when we were meeting with the team to see what they needed, and as we're doing the work that we must do, what else can we accommodate within this desired list that would fit within the budget. So we have all those lists as the desired improvement. Everything was documented so that we will continue to go through the list to accommodate as much as we can during the planning or the design of the work. Next slide. So we chose a design-build delivery method, and in this case, it's a progressive design build. We have the level of design that we did to be able to get us to the place where we could cost the work to see what we really need. It's conceptual. So we are using a progressive design build, and what that means is once we bring in the design build team, we would have an opportunity to meet again with Martina and the team to look at what we have documented as the needs, and then validate if those are still relevant. And then the new design team comes in, whether it's creativity, innovation, what else can we accommodate with the list that we have? And that will now finalize the design process. And then we move into the full design for the project, and then the construction for the project. So the advantages of that is possibly accelerated schedule. So design build, because they have the design team and the construction team, they can they can figure out which scope doesn't need complete design. They don't have to design everything before they start construction. They own it. So they can phase in whichever way that works, whether it's to be able to gain time on the schedule. That's one of the advantages of design build. And then better collaboration, as I mentioned, in the event of design build, once we have a design and we give it to the contractor, if there are design errors, then there's change orders and delays. But in this case, the design builder owns the risk, and then he's responsible for errors and omissions on the design, except if it is something that we did not provide that they needed or that we had promised to provide. But most of the risk on the design is transferred to the design builder. So that's one of the advantages of this. And for a complex project like this, we felt that was a better way for us to go. Because once you open these walls, you don't know what you're going to find. So it was easier. It's better for us to transfer the risk, and then they can do their due diligence. So innovation and creativity, as you all know, this is a project, and as they come in, it's something that they do. They've probably done God knows how many of it across the country. And so they can bring that expertise and what they've seen on other projects to work for this project as well. And then possible cost savings. Again, they know what works, the innovation and creativity, and efficiencies as well. They will be able to improve efficiencies. That's another advantage of using design build delivery method for this.
Question in the back.
Question, I was thinking, I wanted to save money for efficiency, for at least the time, and the state actors, because you always hear about different options for $1,000 because they do this or they do that right. So how can you guarantee, this is a pretty safe building, I'm not saying that I do recognize improvements, but how can we guarantee that we won't have a repeat of what happened in Florida, and I forget where else, in the Millennium, for example, in the Millennium Building?
So, the unexpected, no one can really guarantee that there will be no risk on the project, but that's part of the due diligence, that's part of the program validation phase, that's part of field investigation and all the testing that the design builder will come in. So the effort is there to minimize the risk. I can't stand here and tell you, I guarantee you that there will be no mistakes. I can't do that. But we would do everything to plan the risk, anticipate what we could encounter, and then plan for it. So that's part of the strategy that we would be engaged in. And during the design process, we also looked at that. So we did some of the testing on the building systems to understand what's there, what could happen. But again, anything, no one really knows until you get into the building. But we have done a lot of testing and a lot of due diligence to make sure that there are no surprises. I hope that answers your question. Thank you. Any other question? Okay. Do you want me to continue with the timeline? Okay. So, we are a government, and there's bureaucracy with trying to get contracts and trying to get things done. There's a lot of approval process that we're going through. So what we have here are just conceptual schedule. So right now we have packaged the solicitation document, and it was supposed to have gone out probably January, but there's been some delays. Another group came up with, we need this, we need that. So we've had a few delays, but we still built enough into the schedule to have the solicitation out anytime from now, maybe next week, this week, and we're looking to issue the NTP to the contractor fall of this year. We want to start construction in spring of 2025. So when we issue the NTP to summer of 2025. So we are going to, once we bring the design builder on board, he has an opportunity for program validation, and then in the spring, they will do their program validation and the design for the building, and we're looking at starting construction in summer of 2025. Now, we are anticipating that it's going to take about 18 to 24 months construction, but the design builder can come in here based on what they've seen and what they know. They may have processes that can shorten the schedule, or they may come up with information that says, well, 24 months is pushing it, we need 26 months, but we don't believe it's going to extend past 24 months. So we feel safe with the 24 months schedule on the high side, but it could very well be much shorter because of the scope of work. So, and then substantial completion, once we go through this schedule, we're looking at summer of 2027 for the building to be structurally strengthened and with some of these improvements that we've already discussed. So that's where we are at the moment. Any other questions on this?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm seeing there that the move-out date, the programming that takes place at the center will have to stop. I'm unclear so it will stop fall 2022, 2024?
I'm going to hand that over to Lisa to address that. Thank you.
Thank you. It'd be nice to have clarity for all of us that have to accommodate to see where we go for the 24 months.
So right now, you can see that, blue point in the diagram, summer 2025. So in our latest conversations, and honestly, Jamoke, emphasized that the schedule is still tentative, and including that, the solicitation is still out. So to the extent that this schedule stays as it is, we're currently anticipating and doing preliminary planning towards summer 2025. This is going to be a collaborative effort with MCCLA, but in our most recent discussions, we've talked about, that they probably wouldn't have to move out until like July or August, late summer 2025. And so from there, you would think, per Jamoke's thinking, that it would be a maximum of 24 months. But so that is what we're planning towards, because those are the current dates we have that were being given by DPW. But I really wanted to highlight as well this fall 2024. So as Jamoke mentioned, they're bringing the design build contractor on now. So that's summer 2024. Program and schedule validation. They might say, the schedule, now that we've seen everything again, we've reviewed everything, we've worked with the design team, we're working on more detailed drawings, we feel like this schedule is right on and we are going to head towards summer 2025. They could tell us that this fall. They could also tell us that it's going to take longer. So this fall 2024 is very important. So I just want to make sure that I answered your question. I'm going to go into more detail around the relocation topics next, but this is really what it's based on. And one of the unfortunate things, and I think the Cultural Center can speak to this as well, is, that the timeline has already changed and then pushed further out. And on one hand, it gives us more time to plan, but it also does create a situation where plans are made, and then you have to remake those plans. So I would say that at this point, this is a conceptual schedule, and we're going to know a lot more in the fall of 2024. Next slide.
And if I could just add something to the schedule. So one of the reasons we hesitated in publishing schedules, that it was always tentative, because we do know the dynamics of approvals. And so we had published one schedule based on the process we were on at that time with the design team. But now we hit another issue with contract limits and what we could do with the design team that we had. So we had to change directions and now come up with this, because it was going to conflict out the current design team we were using on the project. So those are some of the dynamics that changed. I know that we hesitated in really publishing a schedule until we felt that it was a highly conceptual schedule, or a good enough schedule that we could tweak a little bit. So when the schedule moves, it's not going to be drastic, where it's going to add another year or 10 months to the schedule. There is float that was built into the schedule, and you could move a couple of months here and there. So that's where we are with the schedule. Thank you.
I have a question. Can you please define for us what is design build?
So design build is a project delivery method where the general contractor and the design team are one. They are one entity. Typical or traditional construction delivery method is you have a separate entity, the architects and the engineers at the design team. They complete the design, and then we put that out on the street to bid, and then the general contractor takes that design, bids on it, and then constructs it. But in this case, for the design build, they are one entity, so it's one company, and they work collaboratively. So the construction, the general contractor is in the room with the design builder, so he has an opportunity to input in terms of constructability review and just how the buildability or the constructability of the design. It starts from the very beginning. I hope so. It's one entity as opposed to two entities.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So excuse me, just for clarity, where are we in terms of contracting with the design build entity?
So that's where we are right now with the solicitation document that is
Go back to the timeline.
Go back.
Alex?
Can you go back one slide?
So that's where we are right now. That is supposed to go out summer 2024 or spring. So it is set to go out anytime. The solicitation package is ready. We're just waiting for approvals from all the different units that need to sign up on it.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify for our community that it hasn't been bid out yet.
No,
That process is still forthcoming.
yes. And we will definitely let you know once it's ready. I will notify you like it's on the street, because we want the community to also, if there are design builders in the community, we would like them to respond to that proposal as well.
I arrived late, so I'm apologizing if you've already answered this question, but can you describe the input of the Mission Cultural Center into the design of the building itself? That would be helpful.
That program validation phase we talked about, this once we get the design builder on board and they now have a contract, we have a few months to sit with the Mission Cultural Center team to look at what it is that the conceptual design that we have right now, and then talk with the design builder and the team on their process and the design and the schedule at that time. So it's a highly collaborative effort.
But we have already met for 2 years, and
Yes.
we have already given input into the design, because I've been meeting with architects for 2 years.
So this is a design build entity, it's a different entity now.
I have a question. You guys have here that it's going to take about 18 to 24 months for this project. That's a guesstimate. So let's say it extends. What kind of support will MCCLA receive, like support or resources to continue it in a relocated area?
Can we go to the next slide? I think there was one slide before this. Okay. So, this is kind of following up on the timeline that we just saw. And just talking about the fact that, you know, it's still tentative and that fall 2024 is key. So on the programming, so this third bullet, one of the things that we work with MCCLA on is they get an annual operating grant, and technically speaking, the operating grant is really tied to this building itself. But as part of wanting to make sure, and we can go to the next slide now. As part of this effort, even though they won't be in this building, because technically speaking, the city charter ties our authority for funding to the building itself, but because we do understand that moving out is also costly, we are looking to maintain that operating grant while they're out of the building. So that's the third bullet there. And then, in addition to that, there are currently 3 relocation grants. One from the Arts Commission through the Capital Planning Committee in the city. And I would say, you know, through MCCLA's own advocacy, another $200,000 through Supervisor Williams' office, and then another $150,000 through the mayor's office through last year's budget process. And we'll be facilitating dispersing those grants. So that is currently the funding that will be in place for the move and for operating while they're out of the building. And I know this is a big topic, so this is a good time for everyone to kind of.
I know that we've had discussions on this topic,
Yeah.
and ad nauseum. But just for the community, we've explored in-kind buildings, meaning are there buildings that the city has that are vacant that the center might move in, and that. In our conversations with the real estate department, it seems unlikely. Do you agree that isn't a possibility?
That was the takeaway I took from those conversations as well.
So just to clarify, so it would be incumbent on MCCLA to locate and lease and deal with a new facility on its own.
Yeah. And for the funding that, so the operating grant I mentioned, and the relocation grants, that those would be the resources that we would be giving to MCCLA to support them in that effort.
Would there be, so the 140K, the 200K, the 150K, those are 3 separate grants, correct? And
I mean, about half of that amount would cover maybe 24 months of rent in this, I'm estimating, in this city. And obviously the rest may go to programming. So I'm wondering, is there room for additional help with grants or?
Yeah, and then the operating grant is about, I think the operating grant is currently in the $600,000 range. So that would also be in play.
So just to be clear, these are relocation. That's what it's going to cost us to move out. We're looking at $300,000 per year for a space that's maybe as large as this stage. That's just for a small space. The storage they're offering us is inaccessible, which means that we need to spend another $100,000 to $200,000 for accessible storage. For our archival historical collection that needs to be in its proper museum storage space, we're looking at $60,000 per year. So our operation grant currently covers, the majority of the grant goes to salaries, and the rest of the grant goes to maintenance and programming. So now that we have to pay rent, that's going to cut back our resources considerably. We still have a lot of fundraising to do.
I think you said that we had approached other buildings and they had said no to the MCLA moving in there. What were the reasons for that? For saying
No, the buildings did not say no. The buildings just charge us a lot of money, like $15,000 to $25,000 for a small space, and then the buildings are not even ready for us to move in. They don't have working restrooms or ADA access. So we would not only have to pay rent, we would have to pay for tenant build out for a building that we're not even going to be in for more than 2 years. We have to spend at least $200,000 in these small little buildings in the Mission just for it to have a working restroom and ADA access. On top of the $25,000 a month we would have to pay. So we are benefiting the local landlord by using our funding on a building that we're not going to come back to.
So in essence, right now, we don't have the overhead of rent in that regard because it's an in-kind. The city gives us the use of this building. And so our grant monies go to programming. Having overhead, our grant monies will have to go to rent as opposed to programming. So it'll eat away at our programming budget.
So Martina, thank you for laying out, these areas that aren't really being covered but are like really essential. So what would help me, I think, is, I know we've heard that we've got monies for salaries and then, some operating that would suffer if we had to think about the necessary other things that are going to happen for relocation. So I'm just wondering, is there an amount that you could ballpark, Martina, of what amount we're short, given that there won't be monies for build out, there won't be monies for proper space rental, archival rental, and is it like 400,000? Is it $500,000? I'm just wondering how much are we short, and then what is the city's plan for helping to take care of that? Because
we need $560,000 per year just to cover rent, not counting insurance or any tenant build-outs. So our goal is to raise minimum $2 million just for relocation.
But my question is, given that $2 million is a lot of money for an organization to take on capital expenses and move expenses for something they don't own, I'm actually asking the question really to the city. What can you do to be able, because that's really a setup, I'll just say it. It's not realistic, and I think that there needs to be some deeper thought given to the fact that we have a thriving organization that's been around since, like, I was at the Arts Council giving money out to organizational grants in the early 80s. And I will share just something right now that how people think sometimes from cities. In that time period when they were looking at, let's say, the Galeria, the Mission Cultural Center, a range of organizations that are Latino organizations in San Francisco alone, they were saying, how do we deal with all these issues of building and, you know, everybody needing something, and they had this idea that they just give, and I think it came from the Arts Commission at that time, that you just give a lump of money and then let them just kind of divide it up, which is really completely disrespectful and weird. And so people push back on that. My feeling is to some degree there's, you know, I love building systems and, you know, conceptual designs and the BD and, you know, having to move out and all of that, but I think we need to be thinking about the organization itself also, that how do we make sure that it has the legs to be able to survive that time period, and what more can the city do to ensure that can happen? Because it's one thing to say we have to raise $2 million, but it's another entirely different thing to do that when there aren't necessarily the automatic structures to make that happen. So I'm really posing the question to the city, what more can the city do to make sure that if there's a shortfall of about $500,000, to make sure that you just don't just throw the weight of the problem on the Mission Cultural Center?
One of these things is that I'm the grants person. I have the community investment team, and we are the ones that distribute the Cultural Center grant, and then we also have the Cultural Equity grants and several other grants because we have an endowment. And so one of the things that struck me when Martina was talking about this community, how many people, I knew that this was a vibrant center, but when Martina told me like how many people come in here, I was thinking like how many carnival seasons can we get through and how many groups are here. One of the things is that strikes me is like what happens to the community when the center is closed. And so we're still, like Lisa said, we don't have all the answers yet. But one of my jobs is to support the ecosystem, the community, and I know that this building is an economic driver for the arts community. It's a gathering space. And so what I can say is, as the community investments team, we have grant opportunities that are different for organizations as opposed to cultural centers. So the cultural centers receive an operating grant, and because of that, they cannot apply for anything, all of the other grants. We're getting ready to approve $8 million in funding for organizations. And so we're still working on a way to support the groups that are here, but still with the whole goal of them returning. So if an organization, say, is doing carnival classes, and we give a grant to them, a grant that MCCLA is not able to receive because of their status as a city-sponsored center, we still want them to return to the building so that there'll be a tie to the building. So maybe the grant would be to an organization and be co-sponsored by MCCLA, because we still want to keep the organization alive and still have the branding here. And so we're still working on that, because there are opportunities that that are for organizations. You don't have to have a nonprofit status. You can work through a fiscal agent. So we're working on that, but we still want to make sure that there's this whole, the plan is to return to the building so that you're still able to do your classes, because a I understand that there are like hundreds of people that are dancing, making music, and doing theater. And so my responsibility is really to support the community, but still make sure that there's a plan to return. So we're still working on it. If you have thoughts about it, please reach out to us, because you all are who give us the ideas. We're still working on ways to be more responsive to the community and different kinds of grant programs that can support those projects. And we gave out $8 million this year for organizations, sometimes first-time grantees, individuals, and then also organizations, performing organizations. So we're still working on it. If you have any ideas, like hit me up at the Arts Commission.
If I'm understanding you right, are you saying that, I mean, it has been a long-standing, a bit of a catch-22 that, you know, yes, the cultural centers get a certain amount of money and it keeps them out of the grant pool for, you know, competing with other organizations. And there's a logic in that, and it's also a bit of a catch-22. It's been long-standing for a very long time. I'll throw one at you right now, and if I'm hearing you, I guess my question is, during the time period when they're away and moving out and then moving back in, is it possible to put that criteria on hold, that they can apply for things during that time period? Because if I'm hearing you, you're saying that there might be opportunities for someone else as a fiscal receiver to apply for them during that time period. Is that correct? And number two, will it really be enough, or will it be just small money, not really still enough to be able to make a significant impact on the shortfall that they're going to be experiencing?
Yeah, so I have to be careful about how I say this without violating, like the charter. There's a charter, and also government policy in terms of like how we distribute money. But it's still a thought. I've been talking with Les Lifehide, who is the director of deputy director of programs, and we were trying to figure out how to do it. Like, we have to, it's like a workaround, but not a workaround. I'm not saying workaround. I mean, I still want to keep my job, but there's ways that we have to try to make sure that we support, but we still have, there's a charter for the centers. And there are people that apply for grants through fiscal receivership and things like that, and support several organizations. Still working on it.
¿Tienen traductor?
Sí.
Sí, ok. Creo, por la presentación que he visto,
I believe, based on the presentation,
que no tienen un plan para este centro cultural.
that there really isn't a plan.
Porque
for
tienen
this
un
center.
plan para poder reconstruir el edificio, para poner todas estas cosas en el edificio, pero no tienen un plan para la sobrevivencia del centro cultural.
So there really is a plan for building the building, but there isn't a plan for the survival of Mission Cultural Center during the construction.
Y creo que ese plan debe de ir junto al mismo tiempo, y no creo que sea responsabilidad de la mesa directiva, de Martina, ni de esta comunidad. Creo que es responsabilidad absoluta del Art Commission y del gobierno de esta ciudad.
And I feel that these projects have to be worked hand in hand. And I feel that this is the responsibility of the board and Martina to figure it out. I feel that this is the responsibility of the city and the Art Commission to figure those things out.
Can you repeat it again? I didn't hear for the class.
I feel that these both projects have to be worked hand on hand. However, I do feel that it's not the job of the board or Martina to figure this out. However, I feel that it's a responsibility of the Arts Commission and the city.
I understand.
Y no he terminado. Creo que ustedes tienen que ver esta responsabilidad de lo que nos están haciendo como comunidad. Nos están arrancando el alma.
I feel that as a community, I feel that you guys are just tearing our hearts out.
Nosotros tenemos una comunidad que ha sufrido mucho, que tiene muchos problemas con la cuestión de la gentrificación.
We're a community that has suffered a lot, especially with gentrification.
Expulsión de nuestro barrio, las rentas son impagables.
Expulsion of our community, the rents are very high.
Nuestra cultura está muriendo y el centro cultural es el único pilar que permanece al centro de todo esto.
Our culture is fleeing, however, the Mission Cultural Center is the only one that's still on its feet.
un momento en que está tan de moda la cuestión de equity y belonging e inclusion, y lo hablan para todo,
inclusion, everything is
y lo tiene que poner uno en todos los contratos y en todas las propuestas y demostrar al mundo entero
and we have to put everything
que
in
somos
contracts and
equitable
demonstrate to
a
the world.
todos. Y aquí nos están pisando.
And I feel here that
Aquí
they're
no hay
being stepped
equidad,
on.
están destruyendo
It's
la
being-
cultura de una comunidad
It's
que ha
destroying the
estado
culture of a community.
arrinconada y arrinconada,
I feel that we're being isolated and isolated.
y no creo que es aceptable. Y creo que es responsabilidad de ustedes ir y decirle no sé a quién, a sus jefes, al mello,
I don't
al
think
board de
it's acceptable.
supervisores, a las personas que dan
And I feel that it's your responsibility to go to your bosses
que
and tell
este
them that this is
centro
not
no
acceptable.
puede, no debe, es imposible, no puede suceder.
And
Que cierre las puertas, que se vaya para el mundo y que rente lo que pueda y que sobreviva como pueda.
I think
Eso
that
es
the
simplemente
center cannot
inaceptable.
leave at all. I'm not telling you guys to community.
Thank you for sharing that. I hear you.
Gracias por compartir. Me está escuchando.
May I interrupt the community a little? Robert Cortana had a question.
Yeah, I have a question for Lisa. As you know, we have had ongoing concerns about our ability to return to the building and the city's intentions in that regard. We've had concerns about our rights during the relocation, our rights regarding the relocation, and our ability to return to the city. And the lease is not used as a mechanism to evict us from this building once we are out. And we had a meeting with you in person at the Arts Commission last June, where you and Joanne Lee assured us that an addendum to the lease would be forthcoming, and it never happened. And then we have written confirmation from you that you would address those issues in July and August of last year, and it never happened. And then we had a meeting with you on March 15th, where I reiterated to you that we are surprised at the way the city is conducting itself in not providing us with those assurances, and you said you took personal responsibility for it, and that the addendum to the lease would be forthcoming. And it's still not forthcoming. We're here at this community meeting, and there's some language in here about maybe you'll deal with it in 2025. So that's really unacceptable to us. It's disrespectful to this community. This is a cultural institution, and people rely on this institution for many valuable resources that we provide. And to be treated this way, I think, is disrespectful to the community. It's disrespectful to Mission Cultural Center. And how are we supposed to believe what you're saying in this PowerPoint when you've told us many times you're going to do something and you don't follow through?
So, we do have a lease that we're currently in, and the lease is good through summer of 2026. I did take your concerns back, and right now we have all 4 cultural centers are on the same lease schedule, and one of the goals that the Arts Commission would like to maintain is having all of the cultural centers on that lease schedule and to do them together. Right now, they are timed to go forward with your operating grant. And I'll be continuing to work on this issue with you and with the Arts Commission.
It just seems like it's not a priority, because I manage a law office, and if we have a priority and something that needs to get done, we get it done. And to keep telling us it's coming, and then not following through is not acceptable.
I do want to, clarify that we are currently in a lease, and our intention, as with all of our cultural centers, is once this 5-year lease comes to an end, that we would initiate the next 5-year lease. And when we talked, I know there was some discussion about an addendum, but I think I had also clarified that a formal addendum was not,
No, you didn't clarify that. You said you take
But,
personal responsibility
okay.
for it and that it would be forthcoming.
Yes, and I'm still going to be taking responsibility, and I'm still going to be working with you and the Arts Commission on this lease work. And this is the proposal that at least 9 to 12 months in advance of the current lease expiring, that we would be working with you on creating the new lease for the new year, for the new 5 years, and that we would start in January.
Can I just address the lease issue a little? Part of the concern is the things that are in the lease that aren't really relevant if we're not occupying the building.
Yeah.
So what we wanted was a document that clarified exceptions, as in what insurance are required.
Yeah.
There's a lot of language in the lease.
Yeah, and one of the things that, as you're aware, probably even a year ago, we had thought that the solicitation was going to be going out for our contractor. We have that timeline, but as you also heard tonight, that solicitation is still pending, so we still don't have our contractor. But in the meantime, I have been working with Jumoke. It is a unique circumstance in the city that we would have 3 things: a city-owned building, a tenant that wants to stay in the lease the entire time during the construction period, and that the Arts Commission also wants to stay in the lease during the construction period. Typically what happens is a building that the city owns or the city might aspire to own, when the contractor takes the building and does the work, they are responsible for all of the insurance. The project itself typically pays for all the utilities. So I am actively working with DPW on, getting the language from them that they have only recently been able to finalize due to the, extension of time of actually getting the solicitation. So I do now have, approved language that from their city attorney and their, insurance, the risk management team, outlining all the levels and types of insurance that the contractor will have to hold. And I am being held to, doing that due diligence and making sure that we really understand the dynamics and how that will happen. So I apologize that it is late, but this is our current plan, to actually have a whole new lease and that we can address issues when we create the new lease. But to the extent that before we start construction, yes, we will need to additionally clarify in a letter or an addendum or someplace these issues between the contractor and MCCLA.
I think the problem with the timing is that you're postponing it till the end, close to when we have to move out. And so if there's a problem or there are things that are not acceptable, we're kind of SOL, right? Because we have to be moving out soon. And that the weekends our ability to negotiate with the city. So the timing to me seems a little bit suspect, and that we wait until the last minute to do it to weaken our ability to negotiate with you.
I would just say that one of our main goals at this point is not so much each individual lease, and we do realize we have 2 cultural centers that are undergoing seismic renovations, and these issues are coming up. So we have multiple goals, and we haven't worked through all of them yet. But one of our goals, like I said, is to have all 4 cultural centers on the same timeline and leases that pairs with their operating grants. And additionally, we're going to need to work with you on top of that to make sure we get clarity on all of the ways that the contractor is going to take what I've been discussing with DPW is that the contractor would basically take on all the building responsibilities, but we haven't yet received all of that language or clarity yet.
Okay, I have a question.
If I can just add to that, construction is we basically are going to hand over the building to the general contractor. They own this building while they are in it. So liability issues, insurance, someone trips, it's on them. So it's like a temporary hold. That's typical in every construction contract. And we have, there is the insurance requirement that the city also needs to make sure that the city is protected. This is an asset to the building. Make sure that the contractor has enough coverage for any incidentals that are identified. I know Lisa specifically asked us for certain clauses to spell it out in the contract, and we took that to the city attorney, who is responsible for our construction contract, where she has to outline and put it in words that is acceptable to SFRs and to you. So, but that is standard. They will pay for the utilities and everything that is related to this building because they own it. And that's why the storage is not going to be accessible, because we're also going to be under the insurance. When I come in here to inspect the building, there is a protection for me as a city employee. So those are the things that is typical of every construction contract.
What is the actual impediment to giving a promise to the community and to MCCLA that they will in fact be able to reoccupy the building? Where is the actual impediment?
We can share our plans and our intent, but we can't guarantee something from a legal perspective.
I just wanted to say that on one hand, you're laying out things that is your understanding, that they're supposed to understand, that will be in place. But that's the reason why it's not enough to just do a letter to the leagues. It's actually important to do an addendum. And I think it's going to be important to, even if you have to give them a new date, give them a new date of when you expect to have the language for that addendum. The second more important point, or equally important, is that you're discussing certain things with the developer contractor. And there are certain nuances of that you need to discuss with that person. However, there is a point early on that MCC should be in that discussion, because by the time, and I've seen this happen, by the time that, it's all been worked out on your end and with the contractor personnel, and then it gets thrown at them, it puts people on their back foot, and it's also not enough time. So I'm asking, well, no, I'm actually saying it should be at a point soon that they should be at the table bringing up the issues that are important that should be included and addressed and agreed upon in the addendum.
Can we go back one slide? Back one, oh, yeah. So, could you use the mic, please? Okay. Thank you. So, to your point, but we're still at a point where we thought maybe the contractor was going to be on board quite a while ago, but they are not. And, but they will be, and this is another one of the reasons why I say fall 2024 is key. Because when you look at that timeline, can you go back one more slide back to the timeline? Sorry, other way. Yep. So we don't have the design build contractor on board. All of the legal documents related to the solicitation have only recently been finalized. So it's the first time we were able to even understand what those would be looking like. And in fall 2024, to my mind, that will be a real chance for all of us, including MCCLA, to understand all the mechanics of everything going on, because we'll finally have our full team in place. Because you have to understand that technically at this point, we don't have a design build team that we're talking about here.
Could I ask a question? I feel like we've heard this a few times, why it is not possible from your position to have that certainty now, not about the contractor position, but about the cultural center's lease and an assurance that this community can have that the Mission Cultural Center will return here and that those issues around the lease have been resolved. Why does that have to wait till fall 2024 or your previous slide, 2025 for that discussion? What can we do now? Because as you can see, we've got a room full of people who are very, very concerned.
I will try to address this to the best of my ability, and Denise, you might need to jump in.
I also want to piggyback on, has the community really been invited to participate in some of these discussions? That's really what I'm concerned about. We actually need more representation. We can't just look at a PowerPoint and discuss it in and out of how important this is to us.
Well, I also think the timing around your next public board meeting actually dovetails really nicely with us having, hopefully, our design build contractor on board. You know, so I'm more than happy to come back and to keep you abreast of our progress and to hear you in a forum like this.
I think it's about participation, not just being an addition.
Yeah. Okay.
I just had a couple quick questions really quickly. My name's Ken Ortiz.
I wanted to just make sure I answered the previous question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick. And again, Denise, you might need to help me with this. So, the current structure of our lease and our operating agreement, we have a sole source authorization to work with Mission Cultural Center and our 4 cultural centers. That means there's no competition, that, you know, for the past 40 plus years, we have had this relationship with Mission Cultural Center. One of the things though with having a sole source contract and a sole source ability to work with MCCLA in a world where this is very unique, and this relationship is in the city charter, it's in the city admin code. One of the few mechanisms we have is the relationship between the operating grant and the lease. It basically goes like this. Every year that MCCLA meets their grant goals, the lease automatically gets renewed. So for us to say in advance, we're going to take away that one, I'm not sure the right word, but that one mechanism, and then just go straight to, we don't have to worry about meeting grant goals in order to reinitiate the lease, is just something we can't guarantee that. And that's really the heart of it. Yeah.
Why waiting so long to form a language and answer the questions that we the board has raised with you?
And also, how can
Why
we
wait
reach
so long?
the grant goal if you don't even have space?
I had a.
You keep saying that this is a unique situation.
It is.
So why isn't there an exception being made for this particular?
that people wait until people holding the mic or are queued for a question to speak, as opposed to shouting out questions. So I appreciate that. And if you have a question, stand up and walk towards the mic and queue yourself up with the person holding the mic. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Kevin Ortiz with the San Francisco Latinx Democratic Club. We actually meet here every third Wednesday of the month, so the Mission Cultural Center is our home. It's the heartbeat, the corazon of our community, and it's the city's responsibility to figure out the entire cost for programming in addition to the relocation and rent costs. Because this city has essentially been a slumlord for the past 20 years with all the deferred maintenance that has happened here in the Mission Cultural Center. And what I'm hearing on top of having MCCLA pay for the majority of their funding that was dedicated for programming, now for relocation costs and rent, and then apply for some small grants that may serve operational and some programmings, and then they have no guarantee of return. Is that acceptable? No! Martina, you said that $500,000 per year goes to costs for programming and with the relocation. How many staff do you currently have here?
I have 13 core staff and 48 teaching artists.
So how many staff jobs do you expect to be cut if this plan goes as is?
Definitely the 48 teachers, because we won't be able to, we won't have a space for them. And of my core staff, I'll probably have to cut more than half.
So this city has a horrible track record of completing projects on time. What will happen if this project goes over schedule? Will the city cover the costs? Sounds like no, right guys?
I hear your name.
Is that acceptable? No. Is that acceptable?
No.
Hello, good evening. My name is Metzi Enriquez, and I am here to talk. I am one of the 48 teaching artists that is here. I am one of two who tends to Fogo na Roupa in the community of Fogo na Roupa. And I want to talk just a little bit about, to tug at your hearts, because I want to remind you that we all come from immigrant communities, right? Which places where we've been pushed out. So this uncertainty really tugs at our hearts. We know that we can reroute wherever we are rooted, but yet we want to be here. And we've been here, Fogo na Roupa has been here for 35 years. This year is our 35th year anniversary. Our teacher, who is Mr. Carlos Aceituno, taught here for 17 years. And I've been teaching here, tending to his community for the past 17 years. And I want to say that within the 17 years that I've been here, I've raised my 3 children, and the center has raised me. And on top of that, we've seen so many generations of foguistas and Fogo na Roupa who are here upstairs drumming and dancing as you speak, and will start at 8 o'clock promptly right after I speak. But one of the things that I want to say is that this has been utterly stressful, because we can barely afford to have programming and pay the rehearsal rent that Mission Cultural Center has to ask us in order for them to be able to be here. And so it's not accessible to artists, and it's not accessible to community when you have classes that are $20 to $25 an hour at the same rate as other for-profit and non-profit dance programs. And so if this is the cultural center that is raising Latino artists, that raised me, 24 months is a huge gap to put us out. We barely fit in Studio B. We have classes of up to 50 people. Our kids are 25 in the smallest class, because that's all of our rent can afford for the night. And we are thriving. We actually came back stronger after COVID. And we are part of the heart that is here. We bring that bump to the Mission Cultural Center. We've made families with the staff that work here, watching them become grandmothers, all of it. So when you walk through the door, this is all family. This is all Latino culture. I have never met the board, and I'm so happy to meet you. Please invite me more. And so this what we're talking about today has been a stress of 2 years because I've been told that Foganahoka has to find a space because there's no way that MCCLA can afford rent that has capacity to hold our dance classes. So every time you have stated we're moving out in 2 months, we've made bridges with other organizations to hold us and then had to cancel. My family inherited about 75 drums this big that we have stored in grandma's house, grandfather's house, and the Heart MCCLA here, which we wouldn't be able to afford to store anywhere else, so that we can parade on Carnaval Day and give drums to 75 drummers of all ages. And so, plus the dance classes that are not fitting in studio space. And so I truly ask for you all to be more intentful, the board and the city, to how it impacts artists on a day to night, because I know that there are health centers in San Francisco that are redone, and while they're redone, the health centers are housed in other health centers so that the work doesn't stop. That's happened to my work within the city. And art is healing as well. It is a therapy that we so need. And so, let me know how, as an artist, I can come and advocate for that healing. Because I'm responsible for a beautiful community of thriving artists that we heal together every Tuesday, Saturday night, plus more. And if you need to push on the city, please call on me. And please call on me, Mission Cultural Center. I'm so happy that you had this meeting because I had no idea how it was gonna go. And I'm here to unite because before me, there were many other artists that I watched grow up in the Mission Cultural Center. So thank you so much for holding this meeting. I hope that you understand how much we need that uncertainty to be scratched away. We are deadly scared of being gentrified out. We are longing to be here in whatever capacity. We will continue to be here. But when we have support of city and admin, I think that we can move mountains. So thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ana Isabel. I'm the program coordinator. I'm going to speak in Spanish because when I want to talk from my heart, it's better in Spanish. He trabajado aquí por casi 10 años y en los 2 últimos años he vivido el estrés junto a nuestra directora Martina Ayala, el levantar el centro. Después de la pandemia, ¿hay alguien que me ayude a traducir, por favor? Gracias. Después de la pandemia, todos vivimos la tristeza de no tener arte, de no tener nuestra cultura viva, y poco a poco nuestra directora Martina, con tanto esfuerzo, la volvió a levantar. La misión volvió a tener vida, volvió a tener corazón. Y ahora que estamos reviviendo la misión, no tenemos a dónde ir. Nuestro Mission Cultural Center no solamente son clases, también tenemos un programa de verano cada año que acoge a más de 100 niños de nuestra comunidad a un bajo costo. ¿Tienen un lugar a dónde nos vamos a ir con nuestro programa de verano? ¿Qué vamos a hacer con nuestros jóvenes que encuentran un hogar después de sus clases y no están en las calles? Vienen aquí a aprender cultura y a encontrar un lugar donde se puedan desenvolver ellos mismos. Yo les pido que no solamente nos presenten la remodelación, sino que nos den una garantía de que nosotros vamos a seguir vivos, nuestra cultura va a seguir viva y nuestros programas van a seguir, y nos den la garantía de que nos regrese nuestro centro cultural. Gracias. Can I go ahead? Oh. Hi, my name is Mirna Melgar. I am a proud dancer with Kowa Nalupa. Every year since I was 18, including dancing with my girls. So I am here 3 times a week. I'm also on the board of supervisors for the city of San Francisco, the only Latina to be on the board right now. But I'm here 3 days a week, as are my children who have, grown up in this district, in this center. The way that this is being presented would not be acceptable in any other community. And I just want to tell you that this community deserves, it's not a unique arrangement. This is not the only cultural center that exists in the city. So I think that whether we need legislation, I tried not to mess with my colleague in District 9, but she's got, the full support of us. So whether we need legislation or we need to push on the department or we need whatever we need to give certainty to this community that this place belongs to the community, it belongs to the next generation. And by the way, we also need a building that is seismically safe and that has all of the things that are expected by the community, and that there is certainty that the organization will survive financially, that the artist will be made whole in programming. All of that stuff goes together with your job in doing this. And we will push you to make sure that it happens. And if you need additional things, we'll be there to do it. But just know that this is not acceptable. We can't have this. And in any other community, you wouldn't get away with it. So thank you.
Yo voy a hablar solo en español. Buenas tardes. Creo que han hablado los maestros, habló la directora. Yo sé lo que cuesta sostener estos espacios. Han hablado de los maestros, han hablado de la directora, han expuesto lo que ustedes van a hacer, pero no han tomado en cuenta a la comunidad que por muchos años ha venido a este espacio a aprender, pero también a brindar su cultura. Y nosotros, como comunidad, y como madres y abuelas y parientes de todos los que están aquí trabajando y los que están impartiendo clases y los que recibimos clases, no estamos dispuestos a que ustedes nada más nos digan vamos a relocar, pero no piensen de qué manera esto puede continuar. Y tal vez ustedes no lo puedan resolver ahorita, pero lleven el mensaje. No vamos a permitir que paren las clases. ¿Por qué? Porque en este lugar mucha de nuestra gente ha tenido un espacio para realizar su vocación, para venir, dar y recibir nuestra cultura. Y creo que no es justo que nos sigan tratando de esta manera. Este centro representa todo nuestro trabajo por muchos años, representa el beneficio que pueden recibir nuestros niños y no puede parar. Y no vamos a permitir que pare. Deben buscar la economía necesaria para que se esté en otro espacio, o nosotros como comunidad vamos a actuar. Lleve ese mensaje, por favor, porque no vamos a permitir que nos sigan tratando como ciudadanos de quinta, porque también nosotros, seamos inmigrantes o seamos ciudadanos, estamos contribuyendo para la economía de San Francisco. Y es la ciudad más rica, pero es rica también por nuestro trabajo. Díganles eso a los que tienen que decidir el lugar donde va a continuar este trabajo. Tenemos una directora excelente que nos está apoyando, tenemos maestros excelentes que nos están apoyando, y sobre todo tenemos a todos nuestros jóvenes que van a estar aquí o donde sea para exigir que no lo sigan tratando de esta manera. El proyecto está muy bueno, pero ¿dónde van a estar nuestra gente para continuar el trabajo? Y eso es lo que más nos importa como comunidad. Yo tuve aquí a un niño Down, que inclusive estaba condenado a muerte porque tenía cáncer, y un maestro de aquí le ayudó a tener una vida de calidad, porque le permitió a él desarrollar su arte. Y creo que eso se lo deben llevar a esas personas que están pensando en que nosotros no merecemos. Sí merecemos, y lo vamos a exigir.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es David Kelvin. ¿Me puedes ayudar con la traducción? Ceci, ¿me puedes ayudar con la traducción? Buenas noches, mi nombre es David Kelvin. Soy director y productor de algunos eventos de la población Puche en el sur de México. Quiero comenzar diciéndoles que la ciudad de San Francisco a nivel internacional nosotros la tenemos como una ciudad incluyente que integra a todas las personas, que es un santuario para todo tipo de población. Esta ciudad es una ciudad súper generosa, súper amorosa, que acoge a todas las personas que sufren en sus países. Dentro de la ciudad de San Francisco, un referente es el Mission Cultural Center. El Mission Cultural Center, quienes hemos estado fuera de Estados Unidos, sabemos que es un espacio donde uno puede venir con el alma oprimida y liberarla. Este es un espacio, durante muchas décadas, ha mantenido y sostenido la cultura de los países latinos y ha sostenido a personas súper importantes que han desarrollado su trabajo desde esta ciudad santuario. Me parece que la ciudad de San Francisco hoy está tratando o está ignorando el valor impresionante que este centro aporta a la calidad de vida, no solo de San Francisco ni de Estados Unidos, a nivel internacional, porque muchos países vemos hacia Estados Unidos y vemos hacia San Francisco y conocemos el Mission Cultural Center y el trabajo que hace el Mission Cultural Center y queremos venir al Mission Cultural Center a hacer trabajo. Queremos venir y estar aquí en el Mission Cultural Center y aportar en algo en el Mission Cultural Center. Estamos muy sorprendidos, muy preocupados y en verdad, angustiados por ver lo que ustedes están tratando de hacer con esta modificación que suena muy bien, qué bueno que la van a hacer, pero están dejando en la indefensión completa todo el proyecto al no tener un proyecto que sostenga de forma paralela todas las actividades, ni a todos los artistas, ni todo lo que este centro representa. Este centro a nivel internacional hoy tiene un valor muy importante. Quizás en la ciudad lo vean como un elemento más de la ciudad, pero quiero decirles que no es solo eso. A nivel internacional también los vemos y también sabemos lo que es el Mission Cultural Center. Por eso queremos venir aquí. Y nos preocupa mucho y nos genera angustia saber que en los meses próximos este centro no va a tener la misma capacidad ni va a tener siquiera el financiamiento para poderse sostener. Muchas gracias.
Hi, thank you. My name is Lucia Gonzalez Polito. I'm a muralist, teacher, artist. I was born and raised in the Mission District, and I'm a direct descendant of Mission Gráfica. My father is Tirso Araliza. My mother is Juana Alicia. I was raised by mentors like Joss Santos, Rene Castro, Calixto Robles, who is still a teacher here to this day. That, I don't know if those names mean anything to you, but they do to us. And these are legends in our community. And I just want to say that Mission Gráfica is the heart and soul of Mission Cultural Center. And they are not separate entities. You can't have one without the other. You can't just place Mission Gráfica into a temporary tiny space because of all the equipment. And like Martina was saying about the archive, you know, a lot of people look at Latino art and call it folk art as if it's less important than fine art. The Mission Gráfica collection of prints is thousands. It's an archive that has to be respected in a museum quality, has to be archived in a library or museum like Martina said, and that requires some of this funding, right? The resources that are in our printing department, I'm a new member here. This is an honor to become one of the teachers here, a place that I grew up coming to. And now that I bring my daughter to, she wants to be a danzante one day, so I bring her every Thursday night to do danza azteca here. And I'm sorry.
You're all right.
The skills that are required to become a printmaking teacher, to become a student of printmaking, they're essential, and we provide them here. We're the only space in the entire city and in the neighborhood that offers lino cut, copper plating, etching, screen printing, graphic design, all for free, and in a public space. And that's not something you can take away. That's something that's been since 1977. Mission Grafica has been around that long. Mission Cultural Center has been around that long. There's been artists who have come here who didn't have that artistry, that came here specifically for that printing quality. Rupert Garcia, Enrique Chagoya, the group Gronk from LA, they all came here to have their stuff printed. And that says the quality that Mission Cultural Center provides. So I just wanted to say that piece about the printmaking department specifically, and that I hope you can do more. Do more, like you said, it's a unique situation. Okay, I said there has to be an exception made then. There are so many vacant spaces in our neighborhood that we should be working with the city to create, to hold a space for Mission Grafica, for Mission Cultural Center, and we need to make this, it can't wait till January 2025 to come up with this lease. This has to be come up with much sooner than the time expected to move out. Like the board said, it's not enough time, and we all, like somebody else said, we need to be participating in it. Thank you.
Mi nombre es Berta Hernández, soy maestra de teatro aquí, no me presenté antes porque estaba un poquito enojada por las cosas que estaban diciendo. Realmente me molesta muchísimo esta presentación, este plan sin nosotros, y lo que más me molesta es este pequeño intención de que tenemos esta excepción, y es lo único de donde los podemos agarrar. Porque no sé cómo se salieron con la suya, que están ahí agarrados con esa excepción. Y les quiero pedir que lo piensen muy bien las palabras que está diciendo usted en este lugar, y que lleve con sus jefes. Y que les diga en su cara, no podemos hablar así porque es una falta de respeto tan profunda que llega al racismo. No hay ninguna excusa para nuestra existencia. Estamos donde tenemos que estar, estamos en nuestra tierra, estamos en nuestro barrio, estamos en nuestro teatro, nos pertenece. No hay excepción. Y por eso es que me enojo mucho, perdonen, soy maestra de teatro, me emociono. Va con el trabajo. No es con intención de ser grosero. Pero creo que les pido que lo lleven con sus jefes, porque tienen que cambiar su visión. Si cuando ustedes las forman o las preparan para venir a hablar con la comunidad, les dicen que híjole, de verdad, esta es la excepción, por favor digan, es inaceptable. Es inaceptable para la comunidad, es inaceptable para las artes, es inaceptable para ustedes como trabajadoras del arte. Inaceptable. Eso es, solamente les pido eso. También les quería pedir que si podemos ser parte de la mesa que va a hacer este plan, que si los maestros de este centro podemos participar en la comunidad y los que reciben las clases, ser también parte de este plan, que vaya junto de la mano de cómo se arregle el edificio para que sea mejor y no se nos caiga durante el terremoto, pero que al mismo tiempo tengamos la manera de existir durante este periodo, todo pagado por la ciudad, todo pagado por los impuestos, porque si existe el Ballet de San Francisco, que existe la ópera, que existe el Memorial Center, y todos estos grandes lujos de la ciudad donde va toda la gente bien pipirufa a ver sus conciertos, nosotros también tenemos derecho a existir. Mi clase de teatro, yo me convertí en la maestra de teatro de este barrio porque no tenía dónde ir a hacer teatro, porque no había teatro en español, porque no había una puerta que no se me abriera para poder ejercer lo que a mí me gusta, que es hacer teatro. Por lo tanto, by default, me convertí en la maestra de teatro dando lo poco o mucho regular que yo podía hacer a mis estudiantes. Han pasado más de 30 años. Y este centro, este pequeño stage que ven tan chiquito, que no se parece a los otros stages de la ciudad, lo han pisado cientos, si no miles de estudiantes que por primera vez sabían lo que era el teatro. Por primera vez se subieron a un escenario y sintieron lo que era representar sus emociones, sus pensamientos y compartirlo con su público. Eso no tiene precio, eso no tiene ni siquiera cómo lo pueden cuantificar. Cuando dicen que cómo podemos saber si se cumplieron con lo que tenían que cumplir con el Operation Grand, por Dios, no se puede cuantificar lo que han dicho aquí los otros maestros de todas las cosas que hemos visto y cómo se han desarrollado estos artistas. Les pido por favor que nos llamen a la mesa y si se tiene que empezar este proceso otra vez, porque obviamente no tiene community input por donde lo vean. Falta, pero no pasaría ninguna prueba de community engagement, ni ninguna prueba de equity por ningún lado, que digamos, ok, nos perdonamos. Lo borramos, nos sentamos otra vez, pero no sin nosotros.
I still would like to have the answer to Robert Britannia's question. When are you going to produce the proof and the affirmation in the form of the addendum that whatever he's been requesting, you have already stated you would produce for the last year? Can you commit right now, when is that addendum going to be given to the board? I mean, you've committed 3 times verbally. You know, you're a lawyer, bro, and maybe you got to get it in writing. And he's trying to get it in writing, and you give it in, and you're representing the city. And so when it's already past due, you've already given your word 3 times. When is that going to be?
I have every intention of bringing the feedback we're hearing today back to
who?
To my boss, director.
Of what? The director of what?
Of the Arts Commission.
Okay.
I will, yeah.
Okay, let me say this. The Board of Supervisors of San Francisco gives $5 million every year to the Bicycle Coalition. The Bicycle Coalition uses that $5 million every year to hire 17 lobbyists who spend their entire full-time paid time going around and visiting all of the supervisors and all of the board, the commissioners and all, and they affect city policy in the way that people who need cars to drive and merchants who need to have their businesses thrive have been deprived, and we've got a guy on a hunger strike in the Mission District because all of the merchants along Mission Street, because the Bicycle Coalition has undue influence, because none of us can afford to be down there full-time lobbying all the city politicians and all the decision makers, so their agenda gets prioritized, and all of the merchants, so they've got this bus rapid transit on Mission, so hundreds of businesses along Mission Street had red zones in front of their businesses and they went out of business. Now they did it to Valencia Street, they want to do it to Geary Street. Now they want to do it to City College. It's called fast tracking and they want to remove all the parking that's left in front of City College and City College Way. And that's supposed to go before them, the SMMTA next month. So they have lobbyists with the $5 million. So why don't you take that, the $5 million that is given to the Bicycle Coalition and give it to Martina? This is a humiliating position to put them back on their heels to where they have to be in a position to cut staff. Why would you have a project that you're supposed to be doing to assist, and like Rose said, the deferred maintenance, I've been coming to this center ever since I was a teenager, and they've never had adequate ventilation, or on the second floor, and then where the galleries are, everybody's gasping for air because that's been going on for at least 20 years. So take $5 million from the Bicycle Coalition and give it to the Mission Cultural Center.
Thank you everybody who's here today, both sides on stage. I'm saying a lot. This was really intense. But I guess I'm just curious, like, how is this all going to move forward? It seems like a lot of time has already been wasted. There's money. There's plenty of money in San Francisco. At the beginning, I heard 25 million. So I'm just a little confused as to like what's going to happen now. And I'm asking like the board and the city, like, where's the, like, when are y'all going to come together and make this happen? Because communities here, now that we're welcome to come today, but it seems like it's like long overdue. And I'm just, how is after this meeting, what's going to happen next? Because after usually community forums in the mission, it kind of just disappears. So I'm just very curious on how this is all going to move forward.
My name is Federico. I just want to give two pieces of information. This city is extremely rich. The budget of the city is $2,700 million each. That's $2.7 billion each year. The budget of the San Francisco Police Department is $700 million a year. I don't understand who puts this budget together, because it's tailored to attract the most conservative voters. And that's why the mayor is pushing for law and order initiatives at this time, and all the politicians are struggling to move to the right. I see it in my neighborhood. So I think this is a wider struggle, because we need to take back our city.
Yeah. I just want to remind people that Proposition E and Proposition F and Proposition 1, which means that it's going to be forced internment, forced medication of the poorest of the poor, the homeless, and those people like GAs who get a weekly check working for the city, who are going to be homeless, about 4,000 to 5,000 of them. That was Proposition E or F. The other proposition was mandated drug treatment. Okay? Now, why all that money? I don't know how much it's going to be. Like the young man was saying that was here a while ago. Why not use that money for art? That's what these people need. The youth, the kids, the blacks, the whites, the Chicanos, the Latinos, the indigenous, the Asians. That's what they need. And then all these people don't have those products. But the majority of us have been a long time due. We have a problem of housing insecurity, of job insecurity, of health insecurity. How come the mayor spends all that money, all that effort to criminalize the poor, and yet disregards this community. I walk these streets at day and night time, not real late, but I see the homeless, I see the Latinos hanging out in the streets, a lot of them. They could go to these classes. I keep repeating what she said. How about the archives? How about the archives? And I don't want to divide and conquer. I don't want us to say, well, the cultural, African American Cultural Center, or this center, or the Indigenous Center, how come, divide and conquer. I don't want to follow that path. But we have to do something. And I agree 100% with what everybody says. It's discrimination, it's racism, it's disregarding the Latino community. I read on the news today, on the Paraguay news, San Francisco is the 8th largest, the 8th biggest work city. That's a large number. So people here are working. People need to relax, not just whether it's for printing press or dancing or theater or whatever. This center is important, not just locally, not just citywide, but statewide and nationwide. So I agree with that woman. If we're going to get our needs met, por las buenas o por las malas.
I am not much of words, but as many people have said today, this place is a home. It's a home away from home. It's a sanctuary for many of us, and it's easy to hear people. It's another thing to see it, and it's a further step to experience it. So I personally do want to invite you specifically to come and experience just a token of what happens in the center. Again, there is a class going on which I should be at right now, but I really want to invite you upstairs to see what it is that this place does provide. And again, it's a very small token, right? It's one class that provides space, it provides healing, it provides therapy for many of us. And so, again, I hope that if and when this is done, we will be here till 9:30-ish. Maybe after, they always kick us out because we just have so much fun. It's literally a party with a family away from our own bloodline. It's a family that we've chosen. Members in our groups, members in our classes, people here that work here, right? So come and experience just a token of that so you can have a little more understanding to what you are here to represent for, since we have not been a part of the conversation outside of this meeting here.
Buenas tardes a todos, a todas. A Guillermina Castellanos, organizadora de Day Labors y trabajadoras del hogar. Cuando yo llegué aquí al Mission Cultural Center tenía 27 años. El Mission Cultural Center es historia y nos están dando en lo más profundo de nuestro corazón, de nuestra historia, de nuestra cultura. Mission Cultural Center es sobrevivir en la ciudad de San Francisco. Cuando yo llegué aquí al Mission Cultural Center estaba pasando violencia doméstica. Cuando yo llegué aquí y me planté ahí en ese escenario, mi vida se transformó. Vi el valor de lo que es Mission Cultural Center y les quiero pedir, por favor, aquí a la mesa, porque allá han hecho un gran trabajo, la mesa del mundo. Gracias por hacer ese gran trabajo, por tener en sus hombros y pensar en todo lo que nosotros, la comunidad, pasamos. Es increíble que en estos momentos que estamos dejando un poco el trauma de la pandemia, nos salgan con toda esta gráfica tan hermosa que se ve, ¿verdad? Pero no se imaginan que nos están dando en los huesos, donde más nos duele. Es importante que tomemos conciencia de lo que estamos causando. Es importante que si este Mission Cultural Center hablara, nos haría temblar. ¿Saben por qué? Porque el Mission Cultural Center es cultura. son valores. Es donde desarrollamos el liderazgo, el empoderamiento de las trabajadoras del hogar, de los day neighbors, de nuestra comunidad más vulnerable. Es importante que hagamos conciencia, que seamos justos, que tengamos dignidad por nuestra comunidad. Ya es suficiente con todo lo que estamos pasando con los empleadores abusivos. Ya es suficiente todo lo que estamos pasando de desalojos para que vengan y nos quieran destruir nuestra casa. Esta es nuestra casa. Esto nos pertenece a la comunidad latina inmigrante, a todas las comunidades. Por favor, piénsenlo y hagan una gráfica adecuada para nuestro público, para la comunidad, que en estos momentos, más que nunca, por el trauma del COVID, lo necesitamos. Si ustedes, me imagino que algún día han venido a ver una presentación de teatro, hacemos maravillas. Por eso es que queremos que exista por muchos años. Gracias por prestarnos el Mission Cultural Center para transicionar, para hacer valer los valores de las trabajadoras del hogar y de los jornaleros. Gracias por pensar en nuestra comunidad. Por eso estamos aquí todos nosotros los aliados. Y a mí me gustaría que en la mesa estuviéramos la comunidad, que los presentadores hablaran español para que nos entiendan, porque esa es nuestra raíz y esa es nuestra cultura. ¡Que viva el Mission Cultural Center! ¡Que viva! ¡Que viva el Mission Cultural Center! ¡Que viva! ¿Nos vamos a dejar? ¡No! ¿Se puede? ¡Sí se puede! ¿Se puede? ¡Sí se puede! Y aquí tenemos a Oscar Grande. ¡Sí se puede!
Speak really quick, I promise. My name is Natalie Ortiz. I wear many hats in the community. We're community organizer, event coordinator, and part of MCCLA's salsa band as well. This has been just a haven for organizers and for just people that love community and want to invest in themselves or in the community here, so really grateful for them. I just want to say that as women and as leaders in the city and in your positions, that you would lead with integrity and that you would hear us and that you would really take this with you tonight when you're sleeping and when you're thinking about everything that you've heard here, and that you will not take it lightly, because these are stories from, just before even I was born. So please don't take it lightly. As leaders, that you would lead with real integrity, and that you will do your due diligence. You will go that extra mile for the people here. So that's all I want to ask.
Dr. Franco, who couldn't be here today. As a pediatrician, I see MCCLA as a beacon of community and hope. For many of my patients, asking them to live active lives, move their bodies to be more healthy, can be a big ask, and programming is expensive and time is limited. MCCLA uses the power of art to heal our communities, to get them to move in ways that celebrate the many countries they come from. They offer what we cannot in our clinics, and that is free, affordable activities that celebrate culture and get you to move your body and calm your mind. MCCLA deserves tangible and needed financial investment and relocation support for all the work it does to keep our families safe, active, and engaged in celebrating the diversity in the mission and SF.
Hello, my name is Fernando Martí. I've been making art here at the Mission Cultural Center for probably the last 15 or 20 years. I've been a teaching artist here for the last 2 years at the Mission Grafica. And I know that this transformation has been in the works for at least 2 years, right? If not much longer. And I think the expectation would be that after 2 years, and it sounds like this discussion about a lease has been going on for a year ago, at least, a year and a half. I think the expectation would be when folks from the city come, that after a year, some of those things could have been resolved by now. And not, well, I still got to go back to my boss. Well, why isn't the boss here? Right? Why isn't the person where the buck stops? And I think that with 2 years of planning and the knowledge that this space has to be relocated, and that relocation is going to be 18 to 24 months, and all of us know how long projects take, and it's probably going to be 3 years, that budget piece over there wouldn't be, we just found a few grants, but that we've identified the amount that is needed, and I think Martina told you what the amount is needed, and that was identified in the city's budget that is being put forth to the Board of Supervisors this June, so that they could approve a budget that says, these are the costs, so that we don't lose the space and these services, so that the community doesn't find a vital resource homeless, so that this does not look like gentrification, but it looks like you all have done the right thing. You've all recognized that this building has problems and it needs to be resolved, but that this building is also a community, and that you all, the city, so I'm not saying you specifically, but you're here representing the city, right? Are responding to that and have addressed that. And 2 years later, I think the expectation should be that you've identified that, right? You know that it's what, $500,000 a year for rent? Martina has been working overtime trying to find where to locate places, where to locate the archives, where to locate Mission Graphica, where to locate dance studios. We know those things are going to cost money, they're going to be rented somewhere, and the city should have a plan for how to cover that while doing the necessary work here. And they should have a plan for resolving issues around the lease that a year ago was brought up. And I know things take time. You know, I got to go talk to our lawyer. Okay, I went to the city attorney. They take their time, but it's been a year. It's been 2 years, right? Like how long? How much longer? And I think part of what we're hearing is if we have to be out of here in another year or year and a half, you don't want to be waiting for a year and a half to say, oh, we got to resolve these things. We never figured out the lease. We don't know where you're going to rent stuff. We don't know where the grants are. Those are the things that need to be resolved now, and I think, you know, hopefully the next time we have this meeting, it's going to be the director of SFIC who's here, right? It's not going to be, well, we're waiting for my boss. Maybe it's the mayor who needs to be here. Maybe it won't be mayor who needs to be here. I think what we want to see is somebody at the top who's responsible and answering to this community and saying, we believe in this, and we're going to take care of it.
My experience is that as a local kid here, and then having gone to school, gone to college in the East Bay, I actually, when I graduated college with an undergrad in fine arts, this is where I came to volunteer, and this is where I cut my teeth in the arts profession. From here, I worked at the gallery, learned as much as I could, and I currently work at another arts organization as their operations coordinator, and I brought all the knowledge that I gained here to there. That has also allowed me to work as a professional art handler as well. So I'm just, hoping that you're able to consider that. So much comes out of here, so much comes out of this building, opportunities for people like myself to pursue arts professions. I've probably worked with several people that you've worked with and hung artworks in buildings that you're very familiar with. So, I would really hope that you are able to take it back to your bosses and talk about, how do we move forward together? How do we make this happen? How do we make Mission Cultural Center for Latino Arts be here for the next 30 years? Let's look at the long plan and let's, see if the Arts Commission can make that commitment to the community and to all the artists that are coming up so that, we can all see that we're a part of that. And, thank you for coming out tonight.
Given that, I thank everyone for their past support, their current support, and Thank you very much.
We need to discuss 5 different art, football, all kinds of stuff. People here are saying that we need to keep grounded, we need to keep the board paid, we need to keep the teachers paid, we need to keep this culture alive.
Hello, my name is Juan Garcia. Probably I'm the oldest person here. Probably because of I've been living here before 1968. Okay? And I remember coming to this building when my family came over here from Peru. And they didn't speak any English. This was the only claro, yo puedo hablar español y inglés, ¿ok? Y la verdad es que a mí me molesta, I'm really mad that this building is gonna go up. I don't live here anymore. I don't live here as a bishop. But for me, it is my neighborhood. And it's always been my neighborhood. Okay? My family came over here without speaking any English, and this place helped my family buy a house on Harley Street. And they're all dead. Okay? But I am here to represent them out there that this building has to be here all the time, not just for my family, but for the rest of the family that has come up. It is really hard. When I came over here, I started in 1968. I didn't speak any English. They sent me to Mission High School. And because I didn't speak any English, they sent me to Samuel Lambert, which is around here, down there by the, right now is the City College. At the City College, at that time, Samuel Lambert, they used to send people that they was people that didn't speak any English, and also these bad kids. I graduated